Hey everyone, what's going on? South Post, how you all doing? And today I'm joined by a very special guest, comedian Ignacio Lopez. What's going on?
How are you doing, man? Great to be here.
Uh, all good, man. It's good to have you on the show, mate. It's good to have you on the show. How's everything going? How's lockdown keeping? What you've been getting up to during lockdown?
I
How's
mean,
Cardiff?
it's okay. I mean, everything's been shut in Cardiff since March last year. You know, it's we seem to be going back for a second. Back opening up shops and cafes and stuff, but we went back into lockdown again. So I'm not gigging out live, but I'm doing a lot of stuff online. So keeping busy.
You're practicing your technology, your
Yeah,
media resources and stuff. With online comedy shows and everything, etc.
absolutely.
I see you. You've been living in the UK for a long time now. Are you still in Cardiff? You still out there?
Yeah, live in Cardiff. My mum is a bit further down. She's in Swansea, a
All
place
right.
called Pontardawe near Swansea. So I haven't had the chance to visit this for the past year, but hopefully. And it's weird because I'm only an hour away. You know, I could walk it if I gave myself enough time, but I'm not allowed, and I don't want to get stopped by the police.
You can jog it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
might have
you
to
can
turn
jog
into a sprint if they spot me. Yeah.
it. Wicked. So tell me more about yourself. You've been a comedian. How long have you been a comedian now for? I've seen you've done some big things already on the upcome. You
Yeah,
performed for
man.
the Welsh football team, for example. How was that?
That was fun. That was during lockdown as well. So that was in November last year, just before the fixture with Finland, which they won. So I'm taking full credit for that, by the way, because I must have cheered them up the night before, so they were ramped up and ready to go. But I've been doing stand up for 11 years in the UK, traveling all over, other places in Europe as well, entertaining crowds. I've done some gigs I'm happy with. I felt like I was really going into the best year of my life, and then obviously lockdown happened, so it's just been postponing things and trying to keep active.
Yeah, it must be hard, especially for someone yourself, like stand-up comedian, and obviously artists, music artists, to during this lockdown, to find a way around it, etc.
Yeah, and
And what have you been doing to carry on your gigging? And are you doing any online shows or anything like that?
yeah. So I early right at the first lockdown, um, Zoom was suddenly everybody's on Zoom. Everyone knows how to use Zoom. So I tried out doing a couple of gigs. I didn't want to do stand-up comedy online because I didn't think it was going to work, and I really love that live experience, and getting the laughter coming back at you and seeing the crowd and bouncing back and forth, getting the energy. So I put it off for a while. But
Mm.
after a few months, I recorded a comedy special in my flat. I did a world tour of my flat. So I went from room to room in my flat, performing comedy sets. And I put that on YouTube for people to watch. But it wasn't the same with just putting googly eyes on inanimate objects around my flat. So
Especially in the bedroom.
exactly, man. Yeah, you don't want something, suddenly starting to vibrate looking at you. That's not what you're looking for. So I, so I tried. Then I started doing Zoom gigs online, and they really took off. And I've been doing them once a month since the start of the pandemic. I started doing a quiz online. I called it Lopez Quiz. It's a ridiculous quiz, stupid questions, some of them to catch people out. And people have just been loving it and joining in every month. So I've kept busy and I've kept doing comedy related stuff, but I can't wait to get back out there and do some real stand up.
Yeah, trust me, I can't wait to get out there as well. Start seeing some gigs myself. Start visiting some places, kind of seeing comedy clubs,
Yeah, man.
etc. It's a big awakening for us, isn't it? And
And
just all looking forward to June.
post show drinks aren't the same when you're by yourself in your flat,
Yeah,
They're cheaper,
exactly.
save a lot of money, but for sure by drinking after shows on Zoom, but
Trust
it's
me,
not the
bro.
same.
It's true. As I said, you've performed for some great people like James Banford of Manic Street Preachers. You've done that. How was that? How did that come about?
Cool, man. So there was an event in Cardiff called Brickstock, and James Dean Bradfield rented one of the rooms for recording in this big sort of old brickworks in Cardiff, and they put on a music festival that he was headlining, but doing an acoustic set with a string orchestra, a quartet, a string quartet. So it was really magical to see that, and people flew from all over the world to see it because he'd not done it before. So we had fans from Japan, people came down from Scotland, England, Wales, and I got to host the stage. So I got to introduce James. I did about 20 minutes of stand-up before him. I went on after the lead singer of Therapy, and there was a bunch of other great musicians on as well. But I wasn't expecting to meet him or see him. You know, they just told, "Oh, you host the stage," and they told me they'd wave me at the back when he was ready to come on, when he was coming through. So I was like, okay. So I'm up there performing, and I must have done about, I was told it was going to be 10 minutes, and I look at my watch. I've been up there for 15 minutes, and I'm keeping my eye out for this wave at the back. And apparently he was at the back laughing so much he didn't want to come on. So he was waiting. He wanted more from me before he came on stage, and I got to welcome him to the stage, which was really cool because Manic Street Preachers are huge, and I've always been a fan.
Yeah, myself also during the 90s, exactly. They're a huge band. Probably one of the greatest bands in Wales of all time.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and it's cool because, I mean, you know, I'm fans of lots of different musicians and sports people and heroes and comedians, but just to see, he regularly, you'll just see him popping into a shop in Cardiff, which is quite fun as well. You know, if you go up to sort of Pontcanna area and Canton and stuff, you see him like going to the off license or whatever, and that's really cool, you know, just to say hi and be like, hey, remember me? I was the guy who made you piss yourself before you came on stage. It's me. And he's like, I'm just trying to do some shopping now, man. Okay, leave me alone.
Stop stalking me. Yeah. So how's your Welsh lessons getting on?
Okay, man, I'm trying. You know, I moved here relatively young to start with. I came over when I was 5, and then I went back and forth really, but not many people in Wales speak Welsh. It's a lot more than people think. It's getting close to 30% of the population speak Welsh, which is great. So, you know, I learned pretty early on how to say, you know, please and thank you. You know, I say diolch a lot, and it's you know, it's useful, and it's just a nice thing to do as well, to learn about the history of the place and where the language comes from and stuff. So I'm trying my best, but some of it still throws me a little bit. It's quite a complicated language to learn for somebody who hasn't grown up speaking it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, 30% of Spain speaks Spanish, don't they? Because half of it is British.
Yeah, for sure, man. I don't know quite the statistics, but there's a lot of English speakers in Spain for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Who are your inspirations growing up in regards to comedy?
Well, strangely, I mainly watched UK comedy. There wasn't really a stand-up comedy scene in Spain. There kind of is one now, but it's not the same as the UK. It's such a big thing in Britain, stand-up comedy. I grew up loving people like Jack D. I thought was the funniest guy on earth, and which was quite strange for like a kid to like this really deadpan comedy.
Yeah,
and that grumpiness.
It's very British.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And, you know, this is the very British thing about complaining as well. British people love to complain. I mean, Spanish people complain, you know, German people complain, people all over the world complain. But British, you've really turned it into an art form.
World champions.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, for sure, man. You got world medal, I think, at drinking and complaining. That's the two best things Britain is the.
At least we got a world champions at something, you know. So, let it be moaning, then that's it, you know. Have you always wanted to be a comedian?
I started out, I wanted to anything creative. When I was a kid, I wanted to do anything creative. I used to illustrate a lot. I used to draw comic books and stuff when I was a kid. I liked sport, but I was the shortest member of my family, and all my family in Spain play basketball. So I was always terrible compared to them. Like they've gone on to be like one of them. My uncle coached the national Spanish basketball team. They've all, you know, very tall and athletic. I'm 6'1", which isn't short, but compared to my family in Spain, I'm like the dwarf of the family. So I was never going to cut it. Moved to Wales, no good at rugby because I'd never even seen a rugby ball before, you know. Football, the football team in my school in Wales were the rugby team. So it wasn't like I was going to get a look in anywhere, man. They just roughhoused me, you know. I didn't get to play much football either. But I've always wanted to do anything creative. I liked making short videos when I was a kid. One of my favorite presents when I was younger was like this little camcorder that I'd shoot stuff with my friends. We'd put them together and, you know, just enjoyed that and making people laugh. I've always loved making people laugh. As soon as I discovered that it's possible to have a job making people laugh, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That's your job. Perfect.
That's what you're born to do. Exactly. You spoke about sport. Are you a football fan at all? Or?
I am, yeah. I'm wearing a Real Madrid top here. I'm a Real Madrid supporter. It's hereditary, so I inherited that. Even though I grew up in Mallorca, my father was a Real Madrid supporter. I'm a Real Madrid supporter.
So you're not supporting Mallorca, no?
No, I mean, you know, I like to see Mallorca do well, but the first item of clothing I ever owned as a child, I was given as a gift, was a Real Madrid full kit, which wasn't a thing in the 80s. You know, for babies to have like a kid, it was a big deal. So that was me. And who puts a kid in white? I think that's the worst color clothing to put a child in, especially a baby. I bet it didn't stay white
Messy.
very long.
Yeah.
For sure.
Definitely. You've always been a Real Madrid fan, then, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult times for them at the moment. It's a bit of a a trans change of them slightly. You know, they're doing okay, but they're not quite at the levels where they were.
No,
Do
not
you
at
see
all,
them
man.
coming back?
Of course, they will. I mean, they're still, one of, if not the biggest club in the world. They will turn things around. I think something just has to change at grassroots. And personally, I'm not a fan of Perez. I don't think the Galactico experiment was a success. I think we spent a lot of money to get the most high-profile players in the world that weren't necessarily the best players for the team. Obviously, some have come in and done incredible things, but I think we waste a lot of money on big-name signings where we should be growing the youth. My favorite players to come out of Real Madrid are the ones that came through the youth.
Raúl,
Raúl,
Morientes. Yeah,
incredible.
Raúl was one, yeah. And Ramos. Well,
Yeah,
Ramos came from Sevilla, but
Sevilla.
yeah,
But again, they were
Ramos came from
quite young.
Sevilla.
He's been at the club so long. I think those are the players that they're the landmark players that make a difference. Is the ones that grow with the team rather than come in after having a one good World Cup, sign them and then bench them. What's the point?
It's true. It's true. I mean, obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo came in from my club, Man United. We missed him big time when he signed for Real Madrid. What a fantastic player he was to sign for Real Madrid.
My girlfriend's father is a Manchester United supporter. He's got a season ticket. He's had it for 40 odd years. You get your name on the seat after you've been a season ticket holder for so long. So he was devastated to find out that she was dating a Real Madrid fan. We've been together a long time now. He's kind of accepted me into the family now. But I remember we went to go see Real Madrid, Manchester United in 2013. Which was an awkward bus ride up with the Manchester United supporters in Swansea.
Exactly. Especially how the game went as well. I felt that we were very unlucky in that game. There was a sending off.
I said at the time as well, and it wasn't just because I was trying to ingratiate myself to them, but I don't think Nani should deserve that red card. I don't think he was. I think it was a close match, and I think Manchester United had it for a long time, and Real Madrid got lucky at the end.
They've had some great players, Real Madrid. I mean, I remember going to see Real Madrid, Man United was it 2000? Sure. And at Old Trafford, and you were 3-0 up after the first half, and unbelievable players you had in that team. I mean, Raúl, Morientes, Redondo, Roberto Carlos. I mean, Casillas in goal as well. Fantastic players you've had in the, So I think Real Madrid deserve a little bit of a mellowing down, for the next few seasons. Fight how many Champions Leagues in the last few years?
Exactly, man. We won I think 4 in 5 years. So it's they're still doing well at the European competition. I think I would like to see them focus on La Liga a bit more. I know that the Champions League is Real's competition. Madrid have won 13 of them, which is incredible, and I'm happy for that. And I always celebrate as if it's the first time. Even though, unfortunately, because I'm a stand-up, I'm usually on stage during the Champions League final because it's always on like a weekend or even a Wednesday night, and I'm there on the stage. So I've had the audience feed me the results sometimes. I remember when Real were playing Juventus a few years ago. I was on stage somewhere else. I was leaving Cardiff as all the Juventus and Real Madrid fans were coming in. So that was quite disappointing. But then I was on stage and the audience was shouting out, "It's 1-1, it's 2-1." But then some of them were lying to me.
It's the worst
some
thing.
Of them were like, and they were like, Juventus
was it an away goal?
Like, what?
It's an away goal. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy how football gets us, it's in the back of our head all the time, especially when we're playing, exactly. United have had a bad time recently, so it's been a bit crazy. We're not at the levels we used to be. Tell me more about your gigs. What's the worst gig you've ever had? I mean, has there ever been a particular member of the audience who's given you a hard time?
I've had tough ones. I did a show in Edinburgh a few years ago called 9 Ig Fails, and it was about the 9 worst shows I've ever done in my life. And like the the worst heckles and stuff. I've had some tough ones. I wrote jokes into that show about um, gigs I'd done for the military. Like the military can be a really tough crowd, but most often they'll give you a hard time, but you'll still enjoy it. It'll just be sort of banter flying back and forth. And at the end, they're happy to have a drink with you and joke around. The toughest gig I ever did, or the worst, the biggest nightmare for me was probably I did a charity show, and it was I just done a bit of material about the Paralympics, and it was mainly people in wheelchairs in the audience. And I started. No, you think that would be the problem, but it's not. It's not a joke about disabled people. It's about it's a joke about actually a historical thing that happened, which I made light of, and I was, the joke's very much on me in the story. But I did the material and I started getting booed, and I was like by one person just shouting at the back in a wheelchair, and I sort of, the whole audience went quiet, and I was like, is it like, what's the problem? Like, and she said, oh, you need to have respect for people. And I was like, what do you mean, like respect for? I said, that's not a joke. I'm not making fun of disabled people. The joke isn't about that. I'm, if you listen to the punchline and stuff, and she carried on shouting out. She's like, no, not that joke. The joke about stabbing people. And I was like, stabbing people. And I started going back in my head through my material. And I'd made a joke earlier on about Newport, where I lived at the time, being a stabby town. All right, because it's quite, it can be quite risky. And I was like, what? When I called Newport a stabby town. And it turned out that the organizer of the festival, of the charity event, they'd done it in honor of a person who had been stabbed and died in Newport. Now, I didn't know that before I went on stage. If I'd known that, I probably wouldn't have said what I said, but that completely changed the gig. That was a painful moment for me. And I think I've got footage of it somewhere with my face confused and then slowly registering. And it wasn't until I came off stage that somebody walked up to me and said, man, you've got some balls. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they said, doing the joke about stabbing. So that's the one that still haunts me. That's the one I still wake up sweating in the middle of the night, jerk awake and like, oh God, no, thinking I'm still on stage.
How did you come back from that? How do you come back from something like that in a funny way?
I think, in fact, on stage, I was kind of like, because I didn't even realize why they were offended at that point. I didn't understand why I'd upset anyone. So I was like, stabbing. I said, yeah, I made one joke about stabbing. I'm not endorsing stabbing. I'm not off at the side selling merchandise. Like, who wants to buy a flick knife, after the show? I'm not. And I just like riffed on it for a bit and just chatted about it. And I was like, that's a ridiculous statement. Just because I've said the word stabby doesn't mean I'm endorsing anyone go out there and just, tool themselves up. That's not what I'm saying. So I kind of talked about it for a while, not realizing what it was that I was talking about. So, but I managed to win over enough of the audience to carry on going. And then I think people realized, oh, he wasn't trying to be hurtful or say something disrespectful.
Yeah, exactly. In regards to British traditions, you talk a lot about Britain, British traditions when we go abroad. Obviously, we're quite clueless when we go abroad. We're just there for the sun and the beach. I mean, I've been to Spain many times. Mallorca, one of the most beautiful places on the earth, especially the beaches. What is one British tradition that the Spanish people can't stand? Because I know that there's a few.
Yeah, man.
But what is one?
It's a lot more lighthearted as well. Like I take the piss. It's my job. You know what I mean? Like that's what I do. I go up, and I think that some people after shows have come up to me and kind of like, oh, what's your problem with British people? It's like, I don't have a problem with British people. I live here. My girlfriend's British. My mom is Welsh. Like, of course I don't have a problem with British people. That would be the stupidest thing ever, to move to a country where I had a problem with the population. So, I joke about it a lot. And Spain, like, we do have problems with certain things British people do. It would be nice if more people learned how to say, please and thank you. Language, even just to order something in that language, not just assume that everyone speaks English in Spain. Also, me personally, I don't like when people mispronounce Spanish words. I pretend it's a worse thing than it is. Like, it doesn't bother me that much. It'd be nice if people all pronounce chorizo correctly or Mallorca. Not call it, like, the worst one for me is when somebody says Majorca because they've seen the
Yeah.
English spelling of it with a J, and that just sort of sends me off a little bit, you know.
What's the difference between Mallorca and Majorca? There's a J and there's two L's as well. There's two
Yeah.
parts
So
of.
the Spanish spelling is with a double L because it's got like a Y sound,
Yeah.
Mallorca. And the J is, I don't know why England put a J in there. I don't know what they were thinking. It's just they've got to spell it their own way, haven't they? They've got to be like, well, we're not going to spell it like the foreigners. Let's make it our own, and they put it that
Yeah.
way. But I
Yeah.
think it comes from because the two islands in the Balearics, you've got Mallorca and Menorca. So you've got
Yeah.
major and minor, like larger and smaller. So that's
Yeah.
why it's Minorca is the British spelling with an I, like minor. So they've just done it that way, I think.
And you made this song about it as well, about the
Yeah.
British in Spain. How did that come about? Was that from past experience?
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I
Seems
work...
pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think the thing I worked in bars and stuff in Spain for a while, and I worked in my dad's bar/restaurant, which was attached to a hotel. And I got to see it all. I got to see the British people walking through the restaurant to get to the swimming pool wearing wet shorts, and I was, you just be like, what are you doing, guys? And it's, they'd come in and order, a pint of beer at like 8 a.m. as soon as the bar opens. I'm like, guys, what's going on right here? I don't want to have to fish you out of the swimming pool later with a net. I want to get through this safe. I want you to be alive. And, so I had all of these ideas and stuff I talked about for a long time, but it wasn't until I was in the UK, just laughing about it with, British friends. And I was booked to do a show in London, and I was actually on the bus to London from Swansea, where I was living. And I got a phone call from the promoter, and I'd only been doing stand-up comedy, I think, for about two years, maybe 3. And she phoned me up. She said, "I'm really sorry, Ignacio, but we've got to cancel you. We made a mistake, and it's a musical comedy show. So it's we booked you months and months ago, but it's a musical comedy show, so it's only musical acts." And I was a musician before I was a comedian as well, so I didn't have an instrument with me. But I said, "Does anyone there have a guitar I can borrow?" And she said, "Oh, probably. Why? You have music comedy?" I said, "Yeah, I've got plenty of comedy songs. Like, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's fine." So I'm on the bus writing comedy songs on the way to this show. And that's the one that got the best reaction on the night. And when I got there, I borrowed the guitar, which was out of tune. And I got like a music stand so I could stick this piece of paper with all of my lyrics I'd written on it, because it was brand new. I'd never done it before. And I stand up and I'm playing these songs and singing them. And that one just got such a rapturous applause at the end of it. Because one thing British people are really good at as well is laughing at themselves. So that's the reason that the song works. That song went viral when I put it on the internet a couple of years ago. But I'd already been doing it around the UK for a long time. So it wasn't like it was just Spanish people clicking on the laughing, and resharing it. It was British people who really took it on board.
Exactly. You talk about not taking yourself too seriously. I think that's a really important part of being a comedian as well, not to take yourself too seriously. What advice would you give to anyone who wants to become a comedian? What advice would you give them to going forward?
If you're starting out and you've never done a show before, just get out there and do it. There's no better learning or practice or writing than just being on stage or performing for an audience. And also, it sounds weird for advice, but it's very difficult to find your voice early on when you're doing stand-up comedy. So a lot of people will copy or emulate other comedians they like, whereas the longer you do it, you start to be more like yourself. And I think it's really important to be yourself on stage. Get the audience to like you, and if they like you, they'll listen to what you've got to say, and then you'll find out if your jokes are funny or not. Once the audience are listening, the hard part is getting their attention, getting them to listen to you. And it's kind of like a lot of things as well. Fake it till you make it. Show confidence, because the audience don't want to be sat there with somebody nervously sort of, looking at their hand with their notes on it, or looking at the time, or voice breaking and stuff. You know what I mean? They want to feel like this person knows how to make me laugh. So that's the advice I'd give to anyone starting out. Get up there as often as you can, open mics, then work your way up to sort of open spots on professional gigs if you can, and just perform for anyone, particularly strangers. Just because you're the best at making your friends laugh doesn't mean you're good at making strangers laugh. That's the quickest lesson people learn, I think, when they start out doing stand-up comedy.
Although I think comedy works better when you meet someone for the first time. I mean, you got that awkward laugh, haven't you? You say these really poor jokes, and then you get the awkward laugh, the fake laugh and stuff. Yes, it's very good advice. here's a question I want to ask. If you were stuck in hell, yeah, and the devil came up to you, said, you got one joke to tell to make me laugh, and I'll let you go free. What joke would you tell?
I don't know. Oh, that's tough. An audience of one is always the most difficult as well, because that's what you always get is what I get is like if somebody comes round to the flat to do some work or something, if I call like somebody out to fit a boiler or whatever, they'll say, oh yeah, comedian, are you? Do you know Jack D, for instance? And you're kind of like, what kind of a question is that? And the other question they always ask is, tell me a joke. And it's tough because a lot of my material is what they call high status. So high status is when you go on stage and similar to Jack D, you act like you're better than everything, right? Yeah. So it's very difficult to deliver a joke like that one-on-one to somebody who's there because they're just going to think you're a dickhead. I mean, the devil would probably appreciate that. So I'd probably give him a joke like...
probably sing him the song.
Yeah, sing him the song. I say, does anyone down here in hell have a guitar? For sure, there must be somebody around here. Some rock musicians must have gone to hell, right? Can I pass?
Nirvana, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, if you believe in, think how many of them have committed suicide, rock stars, right? They're all in hell. The best music is definitely in hell, for sure.
Exactly. I think it'd be more fun in hell. Yeah, definitely. You've got too many goodies in heaven at the moment. So tell me, you got any tours planned coming up? I mean, I would love to go and see you live, in London.
Where are you? So you live in Manchester, do you?
I live in London. I'm in London.
Oh,
I'm in
cool,
London Bridge.
I think I'm doing. I've got a tour plan. My agent's booking it for me right now because I was supposed to be on tour spring last year, obviously postponed. So I think it's kicking off again in September this year. In London, I think I'm booked in to do a couple of venues. One of them for sure is Backyard Comedy Club. I don't know if you know that place. So I'll be performing there, but all over the place. I'm doing the Frog and Bucket in Manchester, Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool. I think we're confirming a couple of places in Wales as well, but all over the UK I'll be doing my tour. It's called Spain's Best Export because I'm known for being arrogant, and that's what I call myself. And it's gonna be September, October, November of this year. So comedylopez.com is the best way to find out tour dates when they go up live.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll definitely be making an effort to get down to one of those gigs. I'll get some Man United fans down.
Make it happen, man, for sure. I'll tell some story. I got some stories about being in Old Trafford. I'll work them into the show if I see some Man U fans in the house.
Yeah, they're very serious about their team, so it might be a tough audience, that one. So definitely. Well, Ignacio, thank you for joining me today. It's been a very good chat. I hope to catch up with you soon. And on tour, definitely.
Definitely.
I wish you the best. I mean, June the 21st. Bring on June the 21st. It's June the 21st here, so hopefully everything all being well, we'll be back to normal and we'll be having a laugh again, definitely.
Yeah, we haven't had confirmation in Wales when we're allowed out yet, so I'm going to be sneaking over the border to do some shows after June 21st. And just to have a pint, man. I miss drinking out of a nice glass, in a pub.
Fantastic, yeah, exactly. Well, thanks, Ignacio. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to catch up with you soon.
My pleasure.
Onwards and upwards, my man.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother. Cheers.